Alright, so we're starting in north-south here, right? And I really like this beginning part because it branches off into several things that I'm a really big fan of. But I saw this submission on Fight to Win, so I was inspired to show it. What we're going to do is we're going to start off by gathering up this top arm, right? You'll notice I'm inside and outside, right? My right side is on the inside of this armpit. I'm trying to really dig my arm up to maintain inside control, right? This arm, right, rather than having it also on the inside, which is good for control because we can keep his frames out from doing a whole lot of stuff. I'm going to sacrifice that level of control so that I have an attacking option as well, right? So this side is still going to be good for keeping frames, and right, if we can gather up this arm, that's cool too, right? We won't do that for this move, but it's nice, right? And this one, we're going to start gathering up his arm here. And while we're here in north-south, let's remember, right, the more we can kind of smother, right, and make him feel isolated and sad and smothered, did I say smothered, right? We want to keep some good weight on him, right? So don't give him all this space if we can, right? Just, you know, take your crotch and sit on his head as much as you can, or get your belly in his face, right? Make him not comfortable, right? Start putting him in a small little isolation tank composed of your legs and your belly, right? So anyway, we're here, right? I'm gonna start pulling this arm back, right? And the goal is gonna be to gather up this arm, right? We're already starting this arm isolation, right? So any time that I see his elbow come away from his body, I'm gonna be looking for this, right? A good person isn't gonna let that happen, but usually we're still in a good position to really dig this out. But what I wanna do is I wanna bring my wrist all the way up his armpit here, right? I want my forearm to be perpendicular to his body and to his arm, right? Because I'm going to use my forearm as a little fulcrum, and this bone here is going to be like a little seesaw, right? So my shoulder is going to apply force as we come up into our little sprawl hole, right? So we're able to create a lot of pressure here, right? Because I'm just basically planking with my forearm on his ribs here, while at the same time, right, putting a lot of pressure here, which starts to separate the shoulder, which is nice. You can also, if you're good, sometimes you can place your forearm up near the elbow for a type of like a reverse armbar. I don't like that as much, but it works. A lot of people do. The first time, how I learned that was through this little tricep attack. But for the most pressure, right? Since that one requires being down low towards the elbow, if you miss it, what happens is we lose a lot of the pressure here, right? And I don't like that. What I want is I'm basically spooling him around my forearm here, right? Like a thread around a spool, right? So we're driving and we're creating pressure here and we're making him sad, right? The sadder he is, the happier I am. Right? But you'll notice as we're spooling our person, right, this forces his head to come up off the mat. Right? It'll naturally do that to alleviate some of the pressure on his ribs. If he tries to stay flat, it'll hurt. Let's try it. You want to stay flat for me? Yeah, a lot of pressure, it's great, right? So we make a choice. The choice is I'm going to keep playing, but I'm going to have to give up, my head being on the mat in order to stay in the game. Alright, so coming back, pushing forward here, right? And we're in a good position. So now I'm going to scoop his head, right? What I want from here, what I'm looking for is bicep to neck contact, right? I want this to be flush all the way in, right? And by having his head off the mat, we can make sure that arm is as deep as it can possibly go, right? So I'm not just like grabbing the back of his head. Right? When his head comes up, I'm looking for bicep to neck. Right? Great. After bicep to neck, what we're looking for is hip to face. Right? So I want him on both sides of his face. Bicep on this side, and it'll be my right hip just kind of pushing his face away here. Right? Because what I'm looking for is I want to slide down his face with my riblets. If he's facing towards me, I don't want to slide down that because it's all bumpy here. So I want this to be here because it's smooth, right? And this also makes a joke. So we're here, we get him to curl up, bicep, right? And then hip to head to make sure he turns away from us. And now I'm sliding my ribs down his face. All right? My end goal. My end goal. I want to get my head underneath his shoulder here. Right? I'm going to gable grip at some point. Right? But I want to slide down his neck. I don't want any moment where I'm taking pressure off his face. Right? And neck, whatever. Right? So if his hands being nice and active here, right? What I want to do is I want to push this like down and away. Right? Because a good person is going to be, he knows that I want to get my head to the mat. So he's going to do things to not let me get my head to the mat. Right? This isn't one of those things. So if we see this arm, we're going to push it across. Or if this hand starts pushing on our face, we're going to push it down to his hip. But I want to get control over this arm here so that he can't start framing against me. So this is going to be your biggest, most annoyingest thing. Right? So whatever he does, just make sure it's not in your way. Right? So we push this across. And now I can start bringing my head down. And while I do that, I'm going to get my gable grip here. My head scooping hand is going to be palm down. Right? And I'm going to get my head to the mat. And now I can start dropping my lat down into his neck. Right? I want to hang him with the little triangle that's here. Right? So we're gathering, forcing him up, scooping the head, hip to face, slide down, make sure this arm is out of the way. Right? Giving no space to finish here. Right? I'll do that once more. Gather. Nice good pressure. His head is up, so I scoop his head. I slide down his face, giving no space. Right? Look at my feet. I'm pushing myself into him while staying low. Great. So this is a basic north-south choke, and it's effective if you do it right. But sometimes, you know, it's hard to do. It took me like 2 years. Go that way a little bit. It took me a couple of years to be able to hit the old north-south. So I started doing a different sort of ending option, right? Especially in the case where I couldn't get my head to the mat or he was being very active with his arms, right? So I'll show you that. So we're here. Oh look, he's just turning onto his side for me. This is great, right? So we're scooping. We're here, right? So in the case where I'm not able to get my head to the mat, right? This is fine, you just grab it, right? So if I'm here and I can't get my head to the mat, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch to the submission I've been told is called the executioner, right? I used to call it the Pez dispenser, but the executioner is a much better name, so we use that now, right? So what we're gonna do is I wanna turn this into a guillotine. And the thing is, the difference between this and a regular guillotine, right, as you'll notice, is my person is going to be upside down. Right, so what I want to do is I'm going to take my legs and I'm going to walk my legs up and I want to hook over his leg here, right? Because I want to keep him from turning away from me here. So I'm just going to hook, right? This hand is going to drop and I'm going to gather up my other hand just like a regular guillotine, right? And now I'm just going to drive my hips forward and finish. What you don't want to happen is if you stay here and you miss, sometimes you'll get rolled over. And that's no good. Right? So the whole goal with the legs is to catch his legs here. Right? So we can't make that full turn. So we're here, we're gathering, we're here, walk up, and catch the hip here. Right? And now I have a lot of power to finish. I feel like I can take his head off. Right, so the important thing here is going to be this first move. Right? This is a really good move. I like it a lot. Right? The ability to create pressure with just this minor adjustment is super valuable. Right? Because not only does it open up this north-south, but I like it for it feeds in my kimura here. Right? But I want everyone to get comfortable here at some point in their jiu-jitsu career. Oh my God, right? We're scooping, getting comfortable dropping down here. Step up, hook your head. And finish. Gathering up here, right? As I do this, what I really like, right? The goal is to create pressure. What I want is to not have my forearm flat at the end of the movement, right? So by turning so that the blade is going up, not only do we get a nice blade going into his arm here, but the other side is going to go into his ribs. If we have a flat forearm, right? If my thumb is pointing towards me, it's not going to generate the same pressure here, right? I can be here and it's like mildly uncomfortable, right? But if I can turn the blade of my arm so that my thumb is pointing up by the end of the movement, I'm going to have good pressure, right? It'll either hurt his arm or his ribs, or both. It might not tap him, probably won't tap him. Yeah. Right? But you can get like a nice freezing response from someone where they are suddenly all their focus is just on keeping their arm safe and monitoring it. And we can also use it to, again, expose the head and neck to do this north-south executioner type stuff. Or my favorite is to use this pressure to help pass the arm into my hand here. So, right, as we're coming in, right, I enjoy the amount of pressure that we can create when Ethan is flat. But what I want is to turn this over, right, so that now I can gather up my kimura here. So if he stays flat, we're able to just be heavy and be uncomfortable and make his life, again, make him very sad. But we can also, I can turn my hips, and this passes this wrist where it's in grabbing distance here. Right? And then bring up the back leg as a little kickstand for his body. This top leg, its job is to staple his arm here, and now we can start either going for the kimura here, or we can set up our arm bars. But it's very important that you get comfortable and you understand how to maintain pressure at every moment throughout the transition, right? Because sometimes what happens is we'll lose this pressure on the arm here, they'll turn in a weird way that takes a lot of the pressure off, or their arm might be on the wrong side when we start, right? So what I like to do is I like to try and hug his whole arm in the beginning, with my neck, and make sure that it's on the same side of my head as the arm that I'm using to attack. If this comes over here, it's not the end of the world, right? Because again, we've got his arm across the center of his center line. We can still gather up the kimura. We can still, scoop his head and get the backpack kimura. But what we lose is, right, this good connection on this elbow here, right? I can still drive forward with my chest, but it's not the same. Ethan barely cares, right? And that's all because we don't have his arm trapped where we want. What I'm looking for in an ideal situation is control of this arm all the way up to where it is right now, behind my head or next to my ear. Right now, when I drive with my shoulder, or my shoulder, his arm can't just come up in front. And if it does, that's fine. You're gonna get kimura. Right? So if he's afraid of the kimura, he's gonna leave that arm up there, and his life is gonna be, again, not worth living in for a couple seconds. But if he decides that pressure is unmanageable, then he can release his own arm, but we're waiting for him. It's not going to go any other direction besides right in front of you, right where your hand's going to be if you're waiting for it here. Right, but I want to be able to create good pressure here, right? It's nice. And I turn, and I'm waiting for this to come up. Right, and then we can start stapling this leg here. Kimura here, right? Or we can pop this leg over, shift our weight, and sit into a passive elbow. So when I'm here, right, I want this elbow nice and tight towards me. All right, and you'll notice that I'm pulling my weight back, because if my chest is on his chest, I'm in my own way here. I'm not going to be able to get this arm as high up as I want. So just for a moment, we bring this back, right? So that I can get this forearm all the way up into his armpit. I got my hand digging into his chest here. My hand is rigid, like a spade, right? A little karate chop here. That way I can apply force, right? If my hand is floppy and useless, the submission will feel not as strong. But if I have my hand rigid, maybe even a fist, I can create a lot of pressure here. And it's really easy for me to pass that over. Alright, so there's going to be a moment where it's like, oh man, I don't have any weight on him, he's just going to go away. Right? So don't hang out back here. But really, there's not really too many good places that he can go to, right? I still got his arm isolated. I'm still in a good position to just go, right? Back where I came from, now with my arm in a good position here. But the cool thing about north-south is we're so far away from his legs that I'm not really worried that by pulling my weight off of him, he's gonna, like, elbow escape. Sometimes I am worried about him, like, coming up and over with his legs, but I'm in a good position where I can see what is going on and what he's, like, thinking about doing. Like this, if his legs are flat, I'm not going to move. If his feet are up, I'm worried a little bit about bridging, a little bit about shrimping. If his legs and his hips start coming up and over, all right, I can start driving back into his hips and keeping everything flat. Right? And again, or also I can abandon the position. Right? If I start feeling uncomfortable here, right, I can dig my way back into a more comfortable place. Right? And you can just do whatever you like to do. But if I get here, I really like attacking this arm. It's my favorite. Right? And sometimes this will also work in this like really high reverse kesa. Right? Most people are not going to be grabbing, but if we get, let's say we get here and he starts reaching up and grabbing me. I don't know why. People do that, I guess. Ethan just did it. So anyway, grab me here. Grab. There, right? If his arm comes up, we bring this up here, and now I just have to rotate my hips down. Right? So if a person's been here before with me, they typically keep their elbow nice and tight here. But we've got a lot of power here. Right? And I feel like I have a good base. I'm slightly vulnerable to being rolled that way, but you know, what would you do from here?
I'm trying to bridge on the way in.
That just opens up. Yep. Mine. Sometimes, like when I'm in north-south, I get really paranoid about being bridge and rolled. So yeah, I've been playing a lot of this like reverse kesa. But when we're here, right, one of my goals is to take my ribs and smash his face. Right? I'm able to monitor his hips to make sure that he's not going to do anything crazy. Right? If he's about to bridge, I'm going to be ready for him to bridge. Right? If he tries to roll, I'm going to be ready to transition and roll. But if we get here, right, and I'm able to scoop this arm and get this arm up here, right, all I got to do now is switch my hips. Right? So this is a really good, like really quick attack. It doesn't require a lot, it's not a lot of moving parts, right? If I can just get this arm up deep here. That's my goal, right? But if I feel uncomfortable here, right, if he's starting to do things with his body that make me feel vulnerable to being rolled over, right, we'll just go back into north-south. If I'm uncomfortable here too, right, we can go back into side control, right, and then go the mount option. But I like being able to make this transition. Right, my usual route is here is traditional side control. If his head or if his arm is on this side of my body, right, then we'll start looking at pulling and attacking here. Right, if his arm's on this side of my body, we'll look at going into north-south and attacking it here. Right, so just it's like the basic breakdown of what I like to do. So, right here, because for the thing that we've been looking at, I like having his arm on this side of my head. So I'll try and trap it and keep it here while I move. Alright, and now I can find pressure. Alright, if he brings his arm to the other side, alright, then we can start looking at the 100 kilos method of side control and starting to use similar principles to set up events that have dissimilar results. They're similar results, right? But being able to create pressure with your body while keeping control and while being able to move yourself is invaluable, right? Because sometimes we can create a whole lot of pressure, but it's hard for us to move, right? And, that's, has a time and a place, but what I want is to be able to generate pressure that still allows me to move myself around Ethan. And that's why I like this one, because, right, my upper body, a lot of pressure. But with my weight kind of focused here, this allows me to move my hips around Ethan so that I can set up things while maintaining control, which I like. All right. Remember the Jiu-Jitsu positional hierarchy. A good position is one that you can move relative to your opponent and they cannot. Yeah. Right? So here, Ethan can't move without my permission, but I'm still able to transition to pretty much, not wherever I want, but I've got a lot more options of movement than he does. So.